100k by the age of 21. I'm not talking about getting lucky with crypto or some penny stock investments that somehow miraculously went to the moon, or gambling and hoping for the best. Instead, I'm talking about solid and reliable strategies that will help you make some money consistently in the years during high school and after you graduate, and in the first few years of your university degrees. So the first thing that I did was all the way back in high school when I was still about 13 or 14 years old, and that was just selling stuff that I didn't want and didn't really need. So what I did was, firstly, I had some old Nerf guns that I wanted to just had no use for, like I'd grown out of it, and I wanted to put that money into like other things. I think at the time I wanted to buy a new laptop, and I think I wanted to buy Legos at the time. Yes, I was still into Legos when I was 14, but yeah, you can see a video right here. So because I needed money for that, I had to sell my Nerf guns. So what I did was just on Gumtree or eBay, I'd list them, and yeah, pretty much that made me, from my old toys that I had, I got rid of those, and that made me about a few $100. So after that, like, even with that amount of money, I still didn't get enough of Legos, and I wanted to buy even more. So what I did then was, with the Legos that I did have, I transformed some of them into custom designed models that I personally made. For example, a Tiger 1 tank. And what I did with that was I built that and modeled that and then put that up on eBay, and a lot of people actually paid good money for it. So I made a few of those tanks. My highest one was a Lego World War II German Tiger tank that sold for $300 and was shipped to the US. And then, yeah, so a few more $100 came in from that. And I really liked toys back then, so I really liked Yu-Gi-Oh cards after that. And what I did was I would buy Yu-Gi-Oh cards in bulk from a supplier on eBay, and then for 1,000 cards I could get that for $700 to $800. Then I would sell those for about $13 to $15, so I'd make about in bulks of 100, so 10 lots of $15 from a $70 investment. I could get about $6 to $8 from each pack of 100 cards, depending on shipping and what price I listed it at. So I did that for a while, and eventually, like, because I became a bit of an expert in cards, I knew which cards were worth more money, and I'd sell those individually. And then in the end, I think from that I made a couple $1,000s just from Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And that pretty much helped me pay for all my expenses that I kind of wanted as a teenager when we didn't really get much allowance from our parents. So pretty much the main tip for that is just base it off a product that you know well and are interested in. So for me, firstly it was the Nerf guns, then it was the Legos that I could design and develop, and then it was the Yu-Gi-Oh cards, which I knew what cards were good and I had more market research and knowledge of. So I knew that I was paying the right price for right cards and selling them for the right prices as well. So those were the first 2 points. Firstly, selling old products that you don't have a use for, and the second one is selling one product that you understand well. So firstly, all the old toys that I didn't want, and then secondly with the Legos, and then the Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I really understood well. The next way I made money was right after my high school graduation. So actually a bit before that. So what I would do was I would apply for all these like scholarship programs and university scholarships that were available kind of out there. And so what this requires is you to know early on what you need based on market research and checking all the universities and seeing what scholarships are actually on offer, and then what requirements you need to satisfy that. So some of them might be academic requirements, some of them might be extracurricular or work related. Most of them, there's also like some equity scholarships, which if you're eligible for, those are pretty easy to get as long as you satisfy those requirements, whereas there's also academic ones, which are the ones that I focused on and I knew I could try and achieve. So from that application and like actually working towards those goals, just like from academics in school, I managed to get a 10k one and a 6k one each year. So in total that was 16k, and it was given to me for a duration of 5 years. So in total it was 16 times 5, so $80,000 just from a couple applications, and then making sure I did well in my grades enough to achieve those scholarships. The fourth thing that I did was somewhat into my uni journey. So I think in my second year, what I did was I actually started a sales job at Vodafone Australia. Why I choose sales over hospitality is, firstly, the pay is slightly better because you do have your commission on top of your regular salary and wage if you do well, and that's good incentive for you to hit your commission targets. And also it's not really that many hours for the workload that you put in. So I remember back at Vodafone, I was working only like 15 to 25 hours maximum each week. So 3 to 4 days, reasonable hours, like maximum 6 to 8 hours, and then I'd leave right on the dot at 8 hours. And then also a lot of the time was just like customer interaction or like waiting to have customers come into the store, and you can just talk with your colleagues. There wasn't really much work to do a lot of the time. So that was like wasn't very stressful at all. And in terms of the numbers, what I could get out of it was on average $700 a week just from working 3 or 4 shifts, and that includes my commission as well, which was not very difficult to hit as long as you put in some amount of effort. And then also for most people as well, everyone helps each other with their sales targets. So in total that was about 600 per week on base salary, and then 100 per week for commission as a part-timer. Not only this, why I recommend it to being better over hospitality is firstly, I think that sales experience is a lot more valued later on when you're working in a corporate job or trying to go up the corporate ladder in your career. So being able to sell, and more importantly, be able to sell yourself and your own skills and confidence, that is a very important skill, and it can be easily developed through working a sales role. For example, what I did at Vodafone. So in addition to working in sales, later on in your life, you can also work paid internships. So as you develop more and more skills in university and from your work experience starting off in sales, then you can do some paid internships. For example, I've done a few of those, either working in a fintech startup or like a kind of quantitative trading internship role, and that has made me a bit of as well, like to be saved up in my bank account. And yeah, I've just made a bit from that, but all of it now is like chucked into stocks, so like I don't really know much about it. The fifth thing that I actually tried was tutoring, and it is kind of common practice, especially with people from my school. A lot of people do tutoring as their kind of like first job. So I actually started a lot earlier than most people. I started tutoring in year 10 when I was still in high school. And that was just based off my marks that I was getting. And I was only charging like very little, like $20 per hour. And a lot of the time I'd go overtime. So I was only like really charging $10 to $15 an hour. But still, like, that was kind of the first work that I did. And like I valued how to make money and like how much hard work you actually have to put in. But later on, like, you can easily charge a lot higher rates. By the end of it, I think I was getting to like $50 an hour. But I know a lot of like my peers are charging like well over 100 now, just because they have so much experience and like they have so much demand from like good reviews from other students, and like it really, really grows like from a base, like gets higher really quickly, because not only are you getting more students based on word of mouth and like people recommending you, but also you can charge a lot more because everyone knows now that you're a really good teacher based on the results that you're getting for your students and all the experiences that you have. So there's 2 paths to going down in tutoring. There's tutoring high school students, which is just private one-on-one tutoring. You can work for a tutoring center, but those generally don't pay as well as privately. And there's a lot more like red tape and paperwork involved with that. Or the alternative is tutoring in university. So I have a few mates doing this as well. The highest I know is being paid at like a rate of $150 per hour, but most of it is between 50 to 100, and that includes like class time and like marking and prep time as well. So you are fairly compensated when you're tutoring in university. It's a pretty good job for the hourly rate, and it's very relevant to what you're learning as well, because you don't have as much, like, you've pretty much learned the content and you're kind of just like revising it in some way and like sharing it with other students who like kind of need that help. So that was just pretty much something I tried, but like now really I don't do that anymore. So right now my 2 focuses are now firstly number 6, which is this method is my YouTube channel and what I think is value adding content. So what I like to do now is make videos on educational content. So a lot of my videos are study tips and tricks, as well as like some university life vlogs and some money making tips. So I hope that this can add value to people's lives by like informing them and like giving them information that they weren't aware of previously and can help them in their lives some way. So even though like I don't charge for this to directly to the customer, like there's an indirect benefit to me, which is in the term of YouTube ad revenue. So that for me isn't too much, but like it's like $20 a day or like $15 a day, and that all that gets like reinvested into the YouTube channel, which is like, for example, the camera you're watching it on now, the microphone you're watching it on now, and all the editing software and like all the equipment that I kind of use, like the lights, and all that stuff. Like, it's come a long way since my first video, which was like just filmed on my mom's iPhone 7 because I didn't even have a proper phone at the time. But that has made me a few $1,000s, and but right now, like, that's not the focus for the YouTube channel. The focus for the YouTube channel is more about growth rather than like monetizing right now. So you probably know that I don't do any sponsorships at the moment because, well, firstly, there's been no sponsorships that like I really am passionate about and I can see that will add value to my viewers. So in total from YouTube, I do make about from just AdSense, even though I don't put ads on most of my videos, or like I take the ads away from the middle and only put it at the front or only start them at the end or something like that. I still make about $400 to $500 a month from YouTube, and that is pretty enough to pay for all my living expenses for the month. So unless I make any big large purchases, like that is enough to cover for like my food, my transport, and like any basic bills that I have to cover. So now onto my last and final strategy that I use to make money, and I'm quite sure 99.9% of you have not heard of this ever before, and that is because it is very lucrative and kind of a secret topic that's not very well known, and that is positive EV or arbitrage sports betting. So before any of you like tell me off for like saying you're just gambling now, like how is this making money? You're just like putting your money and like gambling it away and hoping that you somehow win in the end. But no, like because I keep betting and like bet so many times, all my luck is pretty much like phased out. There's no more luck involved at all. You have good luck sometimes, you have bad luck sometimes, and all balances out pretty much perfectly. So because arbitrage betting or positive EV betting is based on a purely mathematical strategy, you can pretty much guarantee yourself a profit in the end from these sports betting bookmakers. What I do from this is each week I spend about 4 to 5 hours, sometimes less now because I've become more used to it, on just finding these opportunities and betting on them. So from this, what I've made is, you can expect to make like $1,000 a week in total. And that is just like if you use 2 or 3 of these bookmakers. What I use is Sportsbet and Tab. And in total, overall, I've made over now $15,000 from this strategy. And it's still growing, even though like I've been banned on a few platforms because I have made a bit. But because of that, there's like so many bookmakers you can use and like make money off of. So even though like, yeah, it will eventually run out at the end, like it's so far been quite sufficient to like satisfy me. And just like a few hours each week, you can pretty much expect to make like at least $1,000. Unless you like, even if you're having a really, really bad day, I've still never had a losing week. So your risk is pretty much like, there's no risk to it at all. But don't take my word for it. And like, if you want to do it, you will have to do your own research because it is a very like hard thing to understand at first, and like you do need to be able to understand it very well, and there can be a lot of mistakes you make at the beginning. So if you want to like have a start and like think of what it is, then check out my previous video here, which I'll link, and you can take a look at what arbitrage betting kind of is. It's pretty much all purely based on mathematics, so if you think like maths is not useful, maybe think again. So those are all the different ways that I've used to make money from when I was like starting off as a teenager all the way to 21, which is the age I'm now, and I've made over 100k from all these total in combined. So that has pretty much allowed me to live somewhat comfortably and not have to worry too much about my personal finances or much of that money kind of issues going forward. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to this channel to not miss out on my future content where I give more money making tips and educational content. As always, take care, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.